Hey Book Dragons, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a book review for you. Let's go. Thank you to my patrons. I really appreciate all you do to support the channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. A few weeks back I did a book tag video called the Why Haven't I Read These Books tag. And one of the books that ended up on that list was Brave New World. I meant to read it for years. I've heard so many good things about it and some not so good things as well. It is a fairly controversial book, and we'll get into some of that. It is also one of those books that was on a banned books list at one point or another. Not sure what Ari's doing here, but she's getting comfortable. So yeah, it's been on a banned books list at one point in time or another, and I've always wanted to read it, so I did, and we'll get right to my review. If you enjoy this video today, please consider liking it. Please consider subscribing to my channel as well. And if you want to go so far as supporting me, you can join my Patreon as well. I'd love to have your support if you choose to do so. With that being said, let's get right to it. Brave New World is a sci-fi novel, and it has both dystopian elements and utopian elements, really dependent upon your own personal worldview and how you view some of the things that the book talks about. It is a world where long life has been achieved, pleasure is deified, and having fun is the most important thing you can do in life. So it has been created as a true hedonistic utopia founded by a person who has also been deified, and that is a man by the name of Ford. At one point in Earth's recent past, Ford practically dissolved society as we know it in favor of this new hedonistic utopia that he created, and the people who live in this world in the modern day worship him as somewhat of a god, even to the point of using his name in their cuss words. It is also centered around a caste system. So there are 5 main different levels of society, the alphas being the most prestigious and the most distinguished, and they get the most benefits out of this society. And then you have the betas and the kappas and the deltas and the epsilons in there as well. And of course the epsilons are the most base of members of society. In fact, though they are the ones who are pretty much excluded from the society that Ford created, and they kind of live on the fringes and the outskirts of society. This world is mainly interpreted through the eyes of 3 characters: Henry Foster, Bernard Marx, and Lynetta Crown. And so we get different perspectives from each one of those characters. There is also a character named John who is an indigenous person, and there's other characters as well, but those are the main characters of the story. So let me summarize the plot a little bit for you. It's a very simple and somewhat disjointed plot that really serves as a vehicle for Huxley's ideas and themes that are drilled into the populace of the world via their conditioning, and they constantly are fed philosophical mantras that they repeat, and different higher-ups, different leaders repeat, so it very much becomes a ritualistic way of life. And if you repeat these mantras, it reminds you of the ideals of society, and this is how we create a stable society, so you have to keep reminding yourself of these things. As I briefly mentioned, every member of society has gone through rigorous psychological conditioning, which essentially boils down to brainwashing to the Fordian mindset. It is a communal society. One of the mantras that is repeated over and over again is everyone belongs to everyone else, and this is specifically represented in terms of sexual connections. So you will often hear characters saying, "Oh, have you had so-and-so yet?" Or, "No, I haven't had him yet, but I hope to soon." It's not individualistic in any way, and it's not really caring about the feelings of the other people. They are treated as a sexual commodity. And another thing that you will notice in reading this book is the sexuality presented in the book is not monogamous. So if I want somebody over here, as long as they agree to it, then, and at least there was an emphasis on consent in that particular situation. But the idea of this society is everyone belongs to everyone else in every way. So freedom to love whoever and how many people that you want to love, specifically in a sexual way. So keep in mind, it is a hedonistic society that is presented. And also keep in mind, the author is not saying, nor am I saying, that non-monogamy is wrong. I don't believe it is. But the way it is handled in this society may be considered less than ideal. It is also a socialist economy. One of the mantras that is constantly promoted throughout the book is everyone works for everyone else. Psychedelics are encouraged. Specifically, one particular psychedelic that has been created in this society is called Soma. And there is a steady supply of little gram tablets that people will carry around with them if they start to get distressed in life or they see something they don't like. They just pop a gram and everything is better. And one of their mantras again is a gram is better than a dam. Also, genetic engineering is the primary method of propagating the race in this novel. Babies are cloned and engineered. Aging is also reverse engineered. So, as I mentioned before, longevity, long life has been achieved. And this is done with the intent to create a flawless human race. So traditional birthing methods are pretty much not used at all anymore, with the exception of the epsilon societies, the very lowest classes of people. Some of them still do traditional birthing methods. And toward the end of the book, there is a rather lengthy diatribe on the differences between stable societies and unstable societies, and also around personal belief systems. And during this diatribe, one of the characters named Mustafa Mon is talking all about conditioning, and the reason we believe certain things is because we've been conditioned to believe them, not necessarily because we actually believe them to be true or because they are necessarily true. It's just what we've been conditioned to believe. And that is very true of many different things in reality, in real life. I think we can probably all agree on that. He goes on to talk about how in order to create a stable society, there are some things that you have to sacrifice. There are some things that you have to give up. And according to this character, some of the things that have to be sacrificed for a stable society are individual thought, admiring beautiful things, and the quest for truth. Whereas an unstable society has also sacrificed certain things, such as peace and prosperity and long life and health. So it all boils down to, do we want the ideal world or do we want the real world? So as you can see, it's a very philosophically heavy book. And as you read the book, you will see certain things that you'll be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and I wonder if that would make our world better in some respects. And then there will be other things that you'll be like, yeah, I don't think that would ever work. That wouldn't be practical, nor would it be healthy. So you will see things pop up in the book. And that's why I said at the beginning, you may look at it as a dystopia or you may look at it as a utopia. And the way Aldous Huxley writes the book, it feels like he wants the reader to judge for themselves. That's why I said he's not really being prescriptive here. He's just putting forth the information and presenting a society that functions in this way and kind of letting the reader decide for themselves what they think would be best. And so it's an interesting way of writing. So I do want to talk about the pros and cons. We'll start with the pros. And for me, really the only pro of this book is the ideas that are presented. It makes the reader think. And there are laughable moments in the book. You're just listening to it and you're like, oh my gosh, really? And you're just kind of rolling your eyes and like, okay, that happened. So there are comical moments in the book, and the ideas that are presented are quite interesting. Whether or not you agree with all of them, they are quite interesting. And so now we get to the cons, and I do have a few. The writing in particular is not really that engaging. I listened to it on audiobook, by the way. So it was free in my Audible subscription, so I just downloaded it on a whim one day and decided to listen to it. I'm glad I did, but the writing just was not really that engaging. The characters are fairly wooden and one-dimensional, to be perfectly honest. I think probably the most interesting character was a character named John, who is an indigenous person. He is in the Epsilon caste, and he lives on a reservation apart from this new society that's been created. It's a reservation that is almost used as an amusement park for the people who want to get some entertainment. They get on a transport from the utopian society and they go and visit what they call the savages. And that's one thing I will say, it is very xenophobic regarding indigenous peoples. As I said, they are called savages. I don't think the author is doing this, again, in a prescriptive way, but just describing this particular society and how you've got the people over here who have it and the other people over here who don't, and they're looked down on and frowned upon and treated like savages because they were not seen as worthy of embarking into this new society. The author's dead, of course. Whether or not these were actually his particular views, they may have been. Xenophobia was much more common back in the time that Aldous Huxley wrote this book than it is now, so it's hard to say whether that is in fact the case. But that was definitely a con, and something you need to be aware of if you go into reading this book. Would I recommend this? I think some people would enjoy it, yes. I don't think it's for everyone. I'm happy I read it. I enjoyed wrestling with some of the ideas that are presented in the book, some of the philosophical ideas. Those ideas have aged very well, but the story in and of itself wasn't anything special to write home about. So I guess you kind of have to look at it as, do I want to read a novel or do I want to read a treatise with fictional elements added in? So I don't know if that's helpful. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the review. Have you read this book? I would love to dialogue with you on your thoughts about it. If you have not read this book before, is it something you're planning on reading now? Or maybe you were planning on reading it, but now you don't? Definitely let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk with you about it. That's going to be the end of this review. Make sure you are reading more books. I'll talk to you soon.